Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy, and today it's week 1 of Challenge Chuggy. Guys, thank you so much for all your excellent suggestions, kit selections for me to use this week. We do have a winner, and this is the gameplay, well, my best gameplay with the said kit. I'll be talking about that in a second. First of all, yes, I was right in my Skyrim video, I have indeed come down with a cold, so if I sound a bit nasally, that's why, my apologies. Hopefully it won't distract too much, I don't know. Anyway, today, Challenge Chuggy Week 1. I'll be first of all talking about the kit, which was voted the winner by you guys. I'll give a little review of the kit. And then I'll be talking some updates, but I'll talk about those in a second. Anyway, so the kit which won was picked out by a brave noob. And I must apologise off the bat, because I was a little unsure to quite what that they were asking. So their comment was, well, as you can see on screen, the challenge was Recon class for the MP7 semi-auto. Okay, I'm not that cruel. He then goes on to say the MK3A1, aka the Sledgehammer with Slugs and Suppressor, scoped 44 Magnum sidearm, no squad, top 3 in the lobby in a Conquest match. Now, I was unsure if you meant the MK301 as Recon. If that's the case, I'll quite happily go redo and I'll get another gameplay of this. But in this particular game, I'm using that particular setup, but with the support class. Excuse me. Blooming cold. So yes, that was the challenge, and that is what I'm currently running with. So, this kit, let me just put it into 2 words. The MP7 semi-auto would have been more lethal, I kid you not. The Sledgehammer, I seriously do not know what's going on with the slugs in it. It seriously felt like it was firing feathers. It really just did not seem to work at all for me. And you'll see that a few times during the game. I do get a kill with it at one point, but it felt more fluky than anything else. But anyway, yeah, the Sledgehammer in general, it's a fine shotgun. It's an automatic. It's not my particular flavour. I like the pump action style shotguns, and it just seemed that complete spray and pray, I don't know, I had no faith in it whatsoever. And basically what you're going to see me do is run around with the scoped 44 Magnum as my primary. Now, the scoped 44 Magnum I do get on with. I quite like it as a pistol. I kind of equate it to a semi-auto sniper, really. It's just that it's only effective at like 50-60 meters. Well, no, hell of a lot less than that, 20-30 actually, really. But it's a lovely pistol. You unlock, I think it's rank 44. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's fairly late on. And you might go, well, look at that ridiculous scope. You can't do anything with that. Prepare to be surprised. It's a lovely pistol. I really did enjoy using that, and well, as for the result and what happens next, I won't tell you. You'll have to watch the game for that. But thank you for the suggestion, a brave noob. Thank you to the 14 of you, at time of recording anyway, who upvoted that. That's why it was chosen. And essentially, guys, Challenge Chuggy in 2 weeks' time, after the next question time. How I'm going to do it, I'm going to alternate between the two. Leave your suggestions for kits you want to see me play with down in the comments below. Rate the ones that you want to see used, and well, the best. Let's say that the cutoff is the next sort of Wednesday upload, so the next question time. The most highly rated kit selected from then, I'll go and then play with, get a gameplay, etc., and talk over like this. So thank you very much, a brave noob, for the suggestion. And I kid you not, I'm pretty sure the MP7 would have been a much more useful weapon than the Sledgehammer. Anyway, that aside, that's that. The gameplay will play out, and you'll see what happens next. Anyway, this is a 22-minute odd-long gameplay, and I do plan to talk for all of it. The reason being is that actually there's an awful lot of Battlefield-related news going on at the minute. Now, again, links to everything will be down in the description if you want to have a look for yourself. And actually, now I come to think of it, you'll be seeing, I'll be calling out a few little tips and things which I just happened to catch recording this gameplay, so I'll shout those out as and when. Ah yes, and you'll see me pop up the scoreboard several times, just as checkpoints to show you how I'm doing relative to like the rest of the lobby. Actually, one of these little pieces of advice, this is a Conquest thing. The situation on the battlefield here was that we had B and C, and friendlies were taking A. There's no point me running down there, because either I won't get there in time to actually be useful at all, and more than likely the enemy will have pushed up from their only base trying to take bases. Sure enough, look what's happened. So, I'm not quite sure how I destroyed a reactive tank with just 3 bits of C4, but I did. I was very happy, and Q, what the heck, I would have thought at least a hit marker or something on the 2 of them there, but... Anyway. Yes, what was I saying? Something. Oh yes, that situation right there, it's much better to stay at the base you're currently at. You know, if friendlies are taking the objective, there's no point you having to go and sort of run halfway across the map just to turn up and be late to the party. Now, here's a challenge for you guys. Look at this chap here, 64 service stars with the USS-12. Not the highest I've seen. I have seen guys with 100 service stars. My question to you guys is, what's the highest number of service stars with the USS-12 you've seen? I've made my comments clear on the USS-12, and especially the USS-12 frag combo. I've made my thoughts very clear on that, but thankfully, kind of a neat segue here, that little combination will not be as valid in the very near future, I'm pleased to say. So, as I'm starting to feel really nasally, my apologies. Interesting times in the Battlefield community. Battlefield.io, don't revive me bro, well actually they've morphed into one site now, but the big community sites had enough, to say, let's put it in a word, had enough. And they laid down a challenge to EA and DICE. They were going to completely black out community coverage of Battlefield, all things Battlefield, for a whole day. Because essentially they weren't particularly happy with the fact that we just haven't heard anything patch-wise or update-wise or anything since, well, November now. And they're right, you know. We know that there's been a patch coming, there's no ETA, we have no idea what will be in there and all the rest. So essentially they wanted information, and that was their challenge. The next day, well, sure enough, a load of information is released, and I kid you not, this is a changelog which must be about 5 or 6 A4 pages long of things which have been fixed, tweaked, all sorts. Essentially, I'm going to just read through it and pick up some interesting points. Again, you can find this down in the description if you want to have a look yourself. A few things to note. First of all, these all aren't confirmed for the patch. They may be pulled, whatnot. And in addition to that, there's no ETA for when it's actually going to drop. But this is what it supposedly will contain. So, general gameplay fixes right off the top. There's all sorts of interesting little tweaks here. So first of all, players should no longer take damage from small drops. I'm not sure if you've ever been in the situation where you vaulted, I don't know, 2 or 3 meter gap and you've taken, I don't know, 20 or so damage from the fall. I kind of thought, that's a bit silly. Yeah, okay, the amount of weight on your back and things, being a soldier and all, okay, I can kind of buy that, but still, you know, I've died by vaulting stuff which didn't seem all that much of a task. Say, for example, the height of this concrete wall. I kind of go, not so sure about that. Anyway, that's being addressed, which is good. Players will be able to get up from prone slightly quicker than they can currently now. This is a common thing which I know is used a lot in the competitive scene, but basically, if you go prone in a firefight behind cover, the guy who's shooting at you has won, purely because the time it takes you to get up from prone, well, it takes a little while, and you're completely defenseless in that time. So that's being either sped up or addressed to help counter that a bit, I guess. Let's have a look here. Now this is an interesting one. It's something which got me relatively roiled, I guess, is the fade in from black. So when you spawn initially on the map, there's kind of, you know, a nice, very artistic, if you will, fade in from black effect. And that annoyed me for the most part, because essentially you would have, there's a nice knife kill, you would be blind for like a second or two. Your player character, everything would be there, you'd be vulnerable. There was a bit of a spawn shield, in fact, the spawn shield is being upped a bit. But, you know, there was a point in time where your character was vulnerable and you couldn't do anything just because you couldn't see. I was kind of like, well, why? Who made this artistic decision? Well, it turns out it wasn't an artistic decision whatsoever. It was actually a technical reason. The way that the engine works, it requires, you know, to stream data in, and that's what it was doing in that little pause. That little black pause has been significantly reduced, quoting them, which is good, obviously, if, you know, you can see your surroundings and hopefully, you know, save a few deaths or whatever else. That would be good. So that's good, all welcoming that. Let's have a look here. Yeah, in fact, spawn protection time increased from 1 second to 2 seconds. However, that will be cancelled the second you move or shoot. That's good. Tweaked the levels of damage between the buck and flechette rounds to balance them with other weapons. Now, It's interesting, I had a request, let me just find it here, to talk about the difference between buckshot and flechette. Well, I can talk about it fairly straightforwardly, or succinctly, if you will, because to be honest, there isn't all that much difference. The thing you need to bear in mind, though, is the actual way that the round is comprised, and that will pretty much dictate how you should use it. So buckshot, basically, imagine it as loads of little ball bearings. You've got loads of gunpowder in your shotgun cartridge, you fire the cartridge, ball bearings come out very quickly, and they spread up, they cause damage in an area, etc. Excuse me. God, blimey. So yeah, that's a, your standard buckshot round. Loads of little ball bearings, fire all over the place. Great spread, but great damage as well, because each one of these ball bearings, does a significant damage. There's like 10 or so in a cartridge. Potential to be very damaging. Now, flechette are actually little darts. They're not ball bearings. And what the darts do, think of them like if you've ever seen players playing darts in like a pub or a bar or something. They're basically darts like that. So what happens with those is you have, again, I don't know, 10 or so of those in your shotgun cartridge. Ooh, blimey. Might need to blow my nose in a minute. We'll see what happens. I might have to cut for that. We'll see. Essentially, you have 10 or so of these little flechette darts in your weapon, in your cartridge even, and they act like little darts. So basically you fire them and they will stay relatively grouped together, very close, but because they are darts they will penetrate, and that means small walls, wood, and more importantly players. Now the player aspect is the interesting one. It means you can get collaterals with a shotgun very easily. And this is little tip number 1. Did you just notice that that friendly over there is clipping through the wall? Now I know I've certainly have benefited from that. Essentially, when you're proning into a wall, say, to try and keep yourself concealed, be aware of where your legs and your back are going, because that will give you away, and you can take damage through walls because your legs are going through them. That situation there, well, I could see him. If I was an enemy, I'd know exactly where he was, etc. Not good time for him. Oh, excuse me, blimey. So yeah, something to bear in mind. Bear in mind there in future if you're ever sort of around cover, that kind of thing. Anyway. So yeah, Dr. BCDPS3, buckshot and flechette. Essentially, it's just literally the makeup of the round, and it's relatively accurately modelled in Battlefield. So essentially, if you're using a shotgun and you're being killed because, for example, you're firing at a target and none of the rounds seem to hit, go with flechette. More accurate shot, you have to be more accurate, but as a bonus, you get the opportunity to do collateral damage. And if you're a player who wants the shotgun to hit a wide area, an area of effect, buckshot will probably be for you, because it sprays a bit more, and well, as a result, it's a little more forgiving. You don't have to aim as well. So that's pretty much the only real difference, and I don't really think a video would be able to show you fairly the actual difference, because it's different rounds, they work in different situations. Buckshot, for example, cannot penetrate. If it hits the surface, that's it, it's done. So that's the real key difference that you need to be aware of, I guess, when choosing your shotgun ammunition. Obviously you got slugs, which are like single projectiles, basically like a bullet, which do not work well in the sledgehammer, as it turns out. And then you've got, well, the frag rounds, miniature explosives, which, in their own right, I think the frag rounds are fine, but it's the combination with the fully auto shotguns which spoil them, I think. Anyway. Excuse me again. Anyway, back to this change list of all sorts of things wonderful. Attempting to crouch like prone will now properly interrupt sprint. Now, the reason I highlight this one is that there is a technique where basically you can cover ground ridiculously quickly by, I wouldn't say exploiting, but essentially you'd go prone, then you'd stand up again, you'd jump. I can't quite remember the full sequence, but you'd cover ground really very quickly indeed. By the sounds of it, that will stop that. So good, very good. The knife is getting a little bit of a buff in terms of damage, so the knife will only now take 2 swipes to kill an attacking player or a player in general, when a takedown is not possible. At the minute it takes 3, and obviously 3 can be a little dicey in terms of time, so that's fine. Now we come on to a load of vehicle fixes, and by the way, I'm just picking up the odd highlighted one here, which I find particularly interesting. So interesting thing, first of all, is unguided tank rounds and RPGs, so your small RPG, etc. will now be one-shot kills on jets, attack helicopters and scout helicopters. Hurrah! That is something which I think is completely fair and legitimate. Obviously, unguided dumbfire missiles, you know, you have to be very lucky to get an accurate shot like that. And I recall, I think it was in one of the very early Battlefield gameplays I uploaded, I hit a little bird with a tank shell, and all it did was disable it. And you just see this smouldering load of little bird come towards the deck, and I don't know, it just seemed rather comical to me at the time. Anyway. So that's one good thing. And one thing I should mention now, I'm seeing this little bit of the jet, me flying in a jet here. This is not how to jet whatsoever. I uploaded my video about jet skills. This is me playing really pretty piss poorly in a jet, it has to be admitted. And I actually knock that helicopter out the sky. We both suicide. Completely my fault. If you fly around in a jet just doing this to air vehicles because you can't kill them deliberately, not kosher. I did that by pure accident, and I cannot believe, well, I can't really say how badly I felt doing that. I wanted to send a message at the time, but I was very aware that although there's a 50-ticket difference in this game, I could feel that the momentum in the game was starting to swing away from my team, so I wanted to get back in the fight as quickly as possible anyway. So, don't be a fool ramming aircraft out the sky of a jet, yo. Right, that's that. Other interesting things in vehicle tweaks. Yes, javelins. Now, javelins are an interesting thing. They, at the moment anyway, do 33 damage wherever, or something like 33, wherever they strike. And if you have a soul-flown paint on there, or a laser-guided paint, I think they do 50 or so. They get a bit of a buff. That's interesting because the sort of area modifiers on the vehicles don't come into play at all. So, you know, if you hit an RPG in the back armour of a tank, it'll do 60 damage, instant disable. Javelins? No. That's been changed in this up-and-coming patch. The javelins, missile fired without a laser designation lock, will do more damage to the side and rear of MBTs. Great. Very good. Surprised it wasn't there to start with, really. Anyway, what else have we got here? Lots of interesting things. So, they reduced the amount of damage AA missiles do to jets to 45%. Now, that's an interesting one, because you might go, what? Why do that? And in fact, the actual damage the cannon does on the jet as well to other vehicles is getting a bit of a nerf. You might go, why? Why? The reason is that the Stingers and Igglers will be getting buffed up to what they were previously. Now, I've talked about this before, that the Stingers and Igglers were unnecessarily nerfed by a load of people who were just getting shot out of the air by them, etc. Basically, they're being put back to what they were. However, what DICE are doing, or something very clever, is that they're actually tweaking the useful, effective range of the Stinger and the Iggler at the same time. So essentially, they'll do the same amount of damage as they were doing before, but what they will do alongside that is that they will only be effective within, let's say, 100 or so meters. You get the lock, you fire the missile, and you know the pilot has to get out the area mighty quick. That's how it is IRL. It's not a matter of you fire the missile and it tracks for a couple of kilometers. No, they've got limited fuel supplies. They will just detonate. Essentially, the Stingers and the Igglers will become a way of stopping aircraft, you know, being in your area, I guess. And that's just exactly how it is IRL. I think it's a good way to maintain the fact that, well, it'll make the Stingers and the Igglers more useful again, and it will mean that the aircraft won't be shot out the sky left, right and centre like they were being before. The fact that the jets are getting a little bit of a nerf in terms of vehicle-on-vehicle damage is good, because at the minute, to be honest, you know, a dogfight, if someone gets the drop on you, they can take you out and run. You know, at least if it takes a little while longer, you get a little bit of well, a dogfight, really, in general. Anyway, another thing which I should mention is what I've actually just done there. Now, I put some C4 down on the ground to try and bait that tank onto it, blow it up, hooray, 3 kills. Didn't quite work out. That guy was quite clever. He saw what I was doing, unlike the guy in the Jeep previously. One thing which is being changed is, at the moment, before this patch, C4 stays with you, alive, as it were, for 5 or so seconds after you respawn. What you can do is detonate it, like, during your next life, and that's what I did there. I'm not sure if you heard, like, the little VO, but when I pulled the trigger, you heard my guy go, C4 blowing, and then you actually heard an explosion in the distance. That was my C4 I put down. At the minute, you can do that. So say you suicide run at a tank, you get the C4 there, but you get killed. Next time you spawn, hit that old C4 trigger, kaboom. perfectly legitimate kills, and people often go, how the hell did they do that? They were dead. No, C4 stays alive, but when this patch comes along, that's being changed, which is a pity, but understandable. I can kind of get that. Anyway. So yes, other fixes, other interesting things. Now the F-35 is going to get a little bit of a tweak. So the biggest problem with the F-35, if you really slow down to try and, you know, corner's the wrong word, but turn a bit quicker, it won't quite work out for you. You'll go into hover mode and then you just become a sitting duck. That's being changed. It will only go into hover mode at low altitudes, which is good. That will help immensely. Which is good, and on top of that, the jets will be getting a tweak in terms of ejection seats. No, not actual ejection seats, but have you ever had it where you've been flying in a jet, you've taken damage, you go to ditch, and for whatever reason, you're roadkilled by your jet as it's just flying along? Apparently that will be sorted out there. The MAV. No more MAV riding. Now, I guess I may as well chime in my 2 pence here while I think about it, and actually looking at the time, I don't have that much time left. Essentially, I see that the MAV riding, getting onto buildings and stuff with it, that's a glitch. It's not what the game designers intended, and you're using the piece of equipment for personal gain. So, you know, say I was playing support, I wouldn't be able to counter you up on your roof, I'd have to do the same thing. They might kind of go, oh, well, that's fine, you can do it as well. The problem is, though, that isn't, you know, it's not a designated area of play. You can't destroy, for example, the buildings that you get on top of. I just don't think it's cricket if you go up there. So I see that as a glitch. I'm glad it's being removed. The number of games I've been in, per instance, especially on Tehran Highway, where the whole team's just gone, I've got an MAV, I'll sit up on the highway, and this has been the enemy team, and they've just had no one taking objectives. I kind of go, why are you bothering? Anyway, I've literally only gone about a third into this fix list. I'm quite disappointed. There's all sorts of weapon changes, accessory changes, all sorts. Give it a look. It's a very comprehensive list. Thank you, EA and DICE, for releasing it, and hopefully we'll see this deployed soon. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for your suggestions for Challenge Chuggy. I hope you find this game interesting, and as you'll see, I just grabbed MVP, and again, if I got the concept wrong where it's supposed to be played with a recon, I'll try and sort out a gameplay where I was playing recon with this kit. Anyway, guys, if you have any suggestions for Challenge Chuggy, by all means, just do leave them down in the comments below, and you know, upvote the ones you want to see happen. Look, MVP by 3 points, just 3 points. Phew, hard work, hard work. Anyway, thank you very much to a Brave Noob for suggesting that kit, as well as the Cam Scott, and I think Lancer J submitted one. Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. If you could dislike the video, that would be fantastic. Whatever you believe it deserves. If you want to see more videos from me in the future, you can always subscribe. And always, guys, thank you so very much for watching. I hope that the mic hold hasn't put you off at all, but I'll see you next time out on the battlefield.